SMD Law is the official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Check them out on the interwebs at smdalaw.com or at 866-529-3537. No matter where you are in the state of Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Lower Peninsula, it doesn't matter. They have an office near you. So whether you need to send a letter to an annoying neighbor, or you're a criminal and you need defense, maybe you just have problems with elder law, check them out, smdalaw.com today. The official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Call them first, then you act.
Welcome back, Spartan Nation Radio. I am your benevolent dictator, Hondo Carpenter. Thanks for joining us. Let's now bring in, because it's Thanksgiving week, because it's football week, we bring them in each and every week to talk Spartan football, the good, the bad, and the undecided. The great coach, Chuck Grenier. He's in camouflage, sitting in his deer stand, blowing snow up in Gaylord. I'm kidding. He's inside drinking coffee with his sexy hot wife. How you doing, Coach?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, and you're exactly right. I'm in drinking coffee right now.
Yeah, but you left out. Where's the sexy hot wife? Is she drinking coffee with you?
Oh, she's right over there.
All right, good.
She's right over there.
Good. See, I'm going to earn brownie points with her because I called her your sexy hot wife. Oh, I love you, Coach. So Thanksgiving week, what are you thankful for, brother?
Oh, thank you for a good, healthy life, good, sexy wife, Spartan football.
I agree. All right, we're talking about the good, the bad, and the undecided. Let's start with the good, Michigan State. I thought the game plan Dave Warner had was excellent. We'll get into player execution later, which was terrible. But I love the game plan. I like the way they attacked. They didn't take too many risks because they didn't need them. Had Michigan State executed, it would have been a different game. But I think Dave Warner's game plan was terrific. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought so too. We finally got the running game going. The passing game kind of fell on its face, but we had talked about that in the past, and we knew that there were some warts involved with the passing game and with the running game. But it was good to see a running of the ball and a constant holding on to the ball. That he did a nice job of calling the plays.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Coach, I was very impressed. Okay, let's continue on the good. I thought there were several things that were really, really good. I loved the defensive grit of these guys. Agree or disagree?
Oh, I do. I think they play really sound defense. I think I wrote on the Found Forum that I thought maybe we went to the prevent maybe a little early on that one, and they kind of chunked some yardage and made it a little closer than it really was. But the players defensively on a sloppy day, I know there were some missed tackles out there, but it was just a nasty, nasty day to be playing football out there and trying to get a hold of people.
Now, Coach, you're getting ahead of me because I'm going to talk about the defensive game play calling. That's coming up in a little bit. I don't think you can blame the players for them coming back. Okay, how about this? I think Jake Hartbarger is just a complete weapon. I know this. Talking to NFL scouts, they love the kid.
Oh, yeah. When you've got a guy that can continually change field position, can use a 9 wedge or a sand wedge and drop it inside the 5-yard line, hang the ball up there for coverage to get there when he's not doing something along that line, he is truly a weapon.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, let's go to the bad. Actually, let's go with the bad one more next. Brian Lewerke. This is not personal. In fact, last night at practice, I talked to him about it. When you become the starter, the criticism ramps up. And he's only a sophomore. He has 2 great years to improve. But when you become the starter, you're going to face high expectations. And Brian Lewerke was 2 of 14 for 20 yards when the 5th string walk-on was 13 of 25 for Maryland. I'm sorry. Absolutely unacceptable. No other way to call it than a terrible performance.
I think the bright spot out of that was that we got the W, but that game was coming, and we've talked about that before. He's got a lot of talent, and he could be the next great quarterback at MSU, and the only thing standing in the way is him. And by that, I mean you saw in that game high throws, low throws behind, and he just does not seem to carry over practice work with technique into football games. And, that's where the problem with Brian Lewerke is. I have no problem. I think he's going to be a star if he can figure this out. But, when you're using poor technique to throw the football, especially in really bad conditions, you're going to have a day where you just can't hook up with your receivers. And when that day was coming, and we had talked about that before, and I think it was that game, the Maryland game, where, maybe this sunk in a little bit. Just having a great arm isn't good enough. I have to use technique. I have to use all the things that I've been coached to do, and I can become a better football player and actually lead this team, as he said, to a championship someday. I think he can do that if he learns from this game.
We're talking to Coach Chuck Grenier, legendary prep coach in the state of Michigan, all-around good guy, and he wants everyone to know with a hot, sexy wife. Okay, Coach, I want to stick on Brian for a moment because I just want to touch this last thing. No one dislikes him. No one's rooting against him. But when you go back to Connor Cook's sophomore year, you may remember the year before he had won the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl for us. We came in the season. Andrew Maxwell was the starting quarterback. Andrew Maxwell was not performing poorly at all, but every time Connor got in, he just dominated, and he won the job. Here's the thing. When you watched Connor, when you got to game 3, 4, and 5, even when he wasn't as good as the previous game, he didn't look bad. And he kept, and his valleys continued to get higher. So example, and I'm just going to use numbers. If he started at a 60 and the next game he's a 64, maybe his next game he was a 63, but he didn't go to 59. Then his next game a 68, then his next game a 66. He consistently kept raising the bar. We are a lot of games into the career now. We are now 14 games in on Brian Lewerke, and we still have questions. This is not a slam on him. I think we both agree he has the potential to be a star. But I definitely don't think this is written in stone. This is his job the next 2 years. I do think there'll be competition. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I agree, and I think if you go back to that Notre Dame game, I think Connor Cook had his aha moment during that game. If you remember, he was yanked at the end of the game in favor of Maxwell, and I think at that point it might have clicked with Connor at that point that I've got a good arm and I can throw the ball around, but it's more than that. And I think Brian Lewerke has been and disappointingly slow at coming about on that one. I think the wins have deterred that a little bit, coming and getting this almost a 9-3 season coming up here. But I think he's been a little bit slow in the grasp of being blessed with a great arm. Isn't good enough. It's great for high school. You can do that in high school, but in college, it's another step up, another level, and you just got to figure this out pretty soon. But I think there's going to be competition, and that's the best thing to help him out with figuring out his competition. And you got two good quarterbacks on the roster coming back next year with Lombardi and DeWeaver. So it's going to be tough. And if you don't get better, like Coach Manny said, I think Coach Manny said this one: if you're not getting better, then you're getting worse. So
well, and I'm going to say this: I don't think DeWeaver even remotely fits into the conversation.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
There was a moment in his career, which is, hasn't been much so far, but if you go on the field and you haven't got your playlist, that means you're not ready.
I'm just telling you, with what I'm hearing internally, I mean, he was not going to play at Ohio State, but when Ohio State had their reserves in and were still blitzing on the last drive, remember, that last drive, Lewerke started it. And then they looked up and noticed that even with the reserves, Ohio State was blitzing. They're like, get him out. And so, so anyway, there you go. Now I want to switch to another moment. I don't know if you read my 3 up and 3 down article.
I did.
But I referenced something in there. You know this because you've been with me a long time. You've been in the car with me when I've talked to NFL general managers and NFL scouts. I have those relationships. I don't mean that in a braggadocious or arrogant way. It's just, proof you've been there with me. I talk to scouts all the time. And I asked the scout after what LJ did running the ball, I said, did this help himself? And he goes, well, he's off our board because of fumbles. And he goes, we had Amir Abdullah, who the Lions took, off our board because of fumbles. Protecting the football is our single most important thing. And then he said to me, but I'm going to give you a play that hurt him even more, even if we were willing to overlook some of the fumbles. He said he's wide open in the flat. He tries to catch the ball with one hand and be cute, and he hits the ground, drops the ball. And he goes, it's the same way where some of those fumbles come because he's being lackadaisical. Not all of them, but certainly some of them, a few, more than a few. And he said, and it prevails to them a general overall attitude. Does that surprise you the NFL goes that deep? And what do you think of that scout's reference?
No, with today, growing up, watching a football game, like a Michigan State football game that would be on TV was pretty much a rarity. That's how old I am. But now, all these football games that these college players are playing are on TV. Scouts, teams, they get all these films and they watch just about, if they're interested in a football player, they're interested in him, and they will really scout him out and watch everything that he does on the field. And if he's out there and he's playing lackadaisical, that's what the coaches are going to see. But I totally agree with what they're saying. I thought this year, and I think I wrote that on the forum at one time too, I think he's running weak also this year. He seems to be going down fairly easy. And, it's a kid that I think read the papers too much, read his headlines too much, had a feeling, a sense about himself of how he was going to play, and came into this year thinking that he had it made, and it just didn't put the time or the effort into it. But I totally agree with the NFL scouts. I see a play like that, and I wonder, what are you thinking? You don't have your eyes on the future. So, there's 100 and some football teams out there, and on 100 and some football teams, they have at least 3 running backs. And so, the pyramid gets really narrow at the top if you're going to make it into the pro game, and you just can't afford to play at not the highest level possible you can play. And the fumbles are inexcusable. And the thing about Amir Abdullah going to the Lions, that if he was off the board on that one, and in his first years with the Lions, he had fumble problems. He still has them this year. They benched him during one of those games because he dropped the ball twice. So you just can't do those kind of things. If you want to go to the next level, you got to play like you're going to be able to play in the next level. And he's just not doing that all the time. So
the last one I want to talk to you about, and they got the win. And after 11 years, we know Mark D'Antonio is going to be Mark D'Antonio. But once again, he tells Dave Warner, take the air out of the ball. Let's just play conservative. And Maryland almost gets back in the game. They can get away with it against a Maryland and a Rutgers. They can't get away with it. Now, in fairness, we didn't see him do that against Penn State, and we didn't see him do it against some other teams. But I'm still going to call that ugly. You got to put your foot on the gas, in my opinion.
I think so too. That has been a trademark under Mark D'Antonio since he's been here, is that we get the lead and then we got control of the ball, and let's shorten the game, run the ball. Let's not try anything funny, that sort of thing. It for the fans like myself, I was pretty verbal during that game, watching it, wondering why they were doing some of the stuff they were doing. But when you back players off, if they're playing well and you back players off, it's awful hard for them to get to playing well again. It takes a lot of work to get them going again. And if you take the foot off the pedal, so to speak, and the other team really starts amping up, and they're where you were before, they're playing well now. It's hard to get that reversed again, and then it comes down to one of those if games again. Just think if they would have made that field goal at the end there with I can't remember how much time. I think it was like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to go in the ball game. If they would have made that field goal, Maryland would have made that field goal, and the onside kick, then they get the ball. They got momentum. We're trying to get our players up again and going again, and they can go down and they could probably score, and then we go into overtime, and what could happen there? Or they could go for a 2-point and win the game on that one. So, it's a lopsided game to begin with, a 17-0 at that point. But once they went to the prevent and they bum one right on down the field and they scored and they missed the field goal in the next possession, it was closer than the score indicated.
I agree with you 110%. Lastly, we talk about the undecided. And Coach, I'm not undecided about anything. I thought this was a good football game. Your thoughts? And I want. To me, there was no undecideds. I thought there was nothing out of this game that we came away questioning. I thought people did what we expected or what we just talked about in the good and the bad.
Yeah, well, the weather was nasty, and so that takes a lot of what you can do and can't do over the course of that game. And so I don't really have too much on the undecided either. I like we talked about earlier in this talk, I was suspect on going to prevent. Here's something I was thinking about during that game. Playing your normal defense shut Maryland down. So why go to the prevent when you're up 17-0 and just play normal and if you want to make the game shorter, play normal that way. So
I agree with you.
That was my undecided part, I guess. So
he is the great coach Chuck Grenier. Men fear him. Women love him. Puppies and children adore him. Clowns want to be him. Let me tell you how valuable this man is to society. In the summer, when he's out building deer blinds, they use his sweat to make Viagra. The great coach Chuck Grenier, the good, the bad, and the undecided. In the undecided. In the undecided.